I'm very pleased to introduce our next speakers to the stage. We have Hiren Shukla. Hiren is with Ernst & Young, interviewed by Lydia Dishman from Fast Company. Their session is entitled Unlocking the Talent of Today Through Neurodiversity. So please join me in welcoming Hiren and Lydia.
Just a small moment to retake your seats or exit through the gift shop, as it were. If you're dying for more coffee or a snack, run, run, run. We have a video to show you first.
4. So 2 and 4 are out.
Yes, maybe?
I was really scared using the stairs. I was like,
Come on, technology. You can do it. I have faith.
I'm like, this is not going to end well. This is not gonna
We just got a message that said can't play. So, should we just go on?
Yeah, it's not working. Yeah, maybe we can just go ahead.
We'll just get started then, and perhaps we'll show you at the end. So I'm here with Hiren, and I'm going to ask him to introduce himself, tell a little bit about what you do, just for starters.
All right, thank you, Lydia. So good morning, great to meet all of you. My name is Hiren Shukla. I work at EY, or Ernst & Young, and I'm based in Dallas, Texas. And 4 years ago, I had the pleasure of founding what we call our Neuro-Diverse Centers of Excellence. And I'll define neurodiversity. It's really individuals that inherently are cognitively different. They think different. So autism, Asperger's, dyslexia, ADHD. And interesting enough, we did this not as a diversity inclusion or a corporate social responsibility thing, but really to help us disrupt ourselves and drive innovation. Mm-hmm. And so it's probably the most professionally satisfying thing in my 23-year career at EY.
Mm-hmm. You and I had talked briefly about this idea of neurodiversity is a diversity that you can't see. Obviously, race and gender are very obvious. Neurodiversity, not so much. But you mentioned a statistic to me, which I don't quite remember, but how many people's lives are touched by someone who is not a neurotypical?
Official statistics, which are probably conservative, is globally somewhere in the range of 100 and 120 million individuals globally have self-disclosed or have been diagnosed as neurodiverse. There is 85% unemployment of this group. And so you've got a humongous population that's on the fringe of society, the fringe of the workforce, mm-hmm. that's really trying to get in.
Yeah, absolutely. Give us some examples of types of people that you are attracting to your program first before we talk about the program itself.
Sure. So I'll give you some two extremes, okay? It's everybody who is from a PhD from Stanford University that studies machine learning, all the way to an individual who's homeless because their parents passed away, mm-hmm. and cannot find meaningful employment. Mm-hmm. And so we're finding individuals everywhere, and word of mouth has really been the most interesting thing, because when we take a show of hands, even if we did it in this room real quick, how many of you all know somebody or a family that's impacted by neurodiversity? Could you just raise your hands? Would you just do it for me? Just look around the room.
Yes.
Wow.
Almost every hand is up.
Almost every hand.
Yes.
So it was about 1 in 10.
Yeah. And And I think that, we often tend to have our unconscious biases triggered by thinking about someone who isn't neurotypical. And, a place that I've often heard people go is, if someone has Asperger's or is on the autism spectrum, that, they're very antisocial and they are only good at one very specific thing. And so, but can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that, especially in technology jobs, that can present in a variety of ways.
Yeah, you've hit on a great thing. And I'll be honest, 4 years ago when this idea was birthed or proposed, which is effectively these individuals are extremely good at detail, logic, process, extremely high technology acumen. And as you've probably seen from movies or TV, there is this ability to hyper-focus, which means when you like something, you're neurodiverse, you don't like it a little, you like it a lot. Mm-hmm. And 4 years ago when this started, I had no connection to this community. I was so intrigued by this idea. And also I had to lead a group that builds innovation for EY, so I thought, where are we going to find this skill set to disrupt us? Mm-hmm. Lydia, what we have found has completely upended the general perception. I was in Philadelphia a few months ago. Our team had a bit of an argument. The argument was, which place in Philadelphia has the best cheesesteak? And I thought, this is the same argument we'd have with anybody.
Sure.
But what we're finding is that what some of the previous panels have discussed around trust and employee engagement, once we gain their trust, and there's really been a deficit of trust amongst this group because of their experience to life, is once we gain that trust, we unlock creativity that is far beyond we have ever imagined or seen. And, we have an individual who has a background in theater and marketing, and he's on the autism spectrum. Who would have thought this, right? Those almost don't seem to go together. Mm-hmm. But we've been surprised pleasantly to see that all of the perceptions that cause people to walk on eggshells, mm-hmm. they've all been broken. And frankly, employee engagement with them is so direct that it's so refreshing that there's somebody there that's willing to tell the emperor that they're not wearing any clothes. And we all need that in our organizations, right? And they do that for us in such honesty and authenticity that it makes us better leaders.
That's certainly a skill set that, not all of us have. So let's rewind a little bit. And I just want to hear how you are measuring for these skills as you're hiring, because I don't know if traditional assessments or interviews work with a not someone who is neurotypical.
You're 100% right. And traditional and current interview systems or assessment processes in most of our organizations are screening these individuals out. It's inadvertent, but that's what it's doing, because you think about it, if the first thing that you don't do is fail to make eye contact, you don't get past the first interview, right? What happens? Interesting enough, as an aside, an article for us just came out in the Chicago Tribune front page today, where the title of it is, "We don't care if you make eye contact." But
amazing.
To your point, we had to be extremely deliberate about changing and upending our sourcing process, because we can't go to the same well. You're going to get the same fish every single time with the same water. We can't use the same processes, so we use a very hands-on process to display team building and interest and technical skill. And it's a lot of upfront investment, but it translates into about 97% retention. And if that's something that's interesting to you and your organizations, it is 100% worth it for us to do this.
Do you have some measures that you use in order to bring these candidates in? And how are you holding hiring managers accountable to getting to a certain number of, team representation? Yeah, so
these are great questions. Here's a couple of things that we've realized up front. If you meet one individual that's neurodiverse, you've only met one, because they're all so different, okay? So when we are assessing individuals up front, we actually give them a technical exercise to do. We don't care what their degree is in. In fact, we don't even care if they have a degree or not, because we realize that if you enjoy emerging technology like robotics or cybersecurity or blockchain, you really enjoy it. And so with these individuals, we've had to create very specific assessments for them to do that have them do things like follow a set of instructions that are incorrect. And I say this out loud because we all know in the real world, not everything you get is going to follow a 12-step process, right?
Sure.
And so we put them through these measures or these assessments, which in fact our own neurodiverse individuals, team members, have created for us.
Oh, okay.
So the power that we're really getting is we're tapping into how these individuals think and how they view the world, which is extremely different than all of us. And that's really the power behind this. And so the metrics is, once we assess them for their technical acumen, when they come on the job, utilization, productivity, quality, turnaround time, all the same metrics that we use for all of the other 270,000 employees at EY, we're applying to them. They get a little bit of coaching on the side because anxiety, depression, things like that are sometimes prevalent here. But I would look around and say, who hasn't at some point in their life faced anxiety, depression? All of us, right?
Sure.
And so for them, really measuring their productivity the way we do with everyone else is what we're applying for. And we say to them up front, this is not charity or corporate social responsibility. We are looking for a data scientist STEM profile. You fit that profile. Here's what the job is. And we need you to do this job. And so our 2-week assessment, 1 week virtual, 1 week on site, which in fact we've been openly sharing with companies, and that's part of what we want to do. Part of the great opportunity, Lydia, is, at EY we say we're going to build a better working world. We want to build a better world and reframe the discussion around this. And so we invite all of you, your organizations. There's no fee, there's no charge. We'd love for you all to see this. And in fact, when you see it live, oh boy, we've had everybody walk away.
Well,
Potential.
with that, that's a good segue. So if we can pop this video in that we were supposed to see at the beginning, that'd be a good way to do it. See it live.
Sometimes I have to censor myself or mold myself or edit myself in some way to make myself more palatable to the world. As an autistic and non-binary trans woman, life is different for me. In other people's eyes, I guess I seem different. Growing up, I had a lot of trouble relating with other people. They would say things in more of a metaphorical sense. I would think they were being literal. Like, it's the bee's knees. I'm like, no, there's no bees here. There's no knees. What does that mean? I'm just someone trying to get through the day just like anyone else. My coworkers, they definitely accept me for who I am. They appreciate me for who I am. I feel like I belong at EY. I never really thought I would find a workplace where I would be out as trans and accepted. I just did not think that would ever be a possibility for me. Diverse teams produce incredible results because they bring their experiences from multiple backgrounds, from multiple points of understanding. They can come together and really create great things.
What do you guys' thoughts on it?
One of the big things that happens with autistic children, their personhood is basically revoked. I just want them to know that that's not forever.
Wow.
Very inspiring. In an earlier panel, we touched on this idea of belonging. And it's one thing to bring diverse teams together and sit everyone at the table, but we as humans do have this unconscious bias left over from the time we were, having to hunt and gather and defend ourselves. How are you handling it at EY when you bring these diverse teams together? How do you teach people to relate to each other, to accept each other? Because that's not always a natural thing.
It's not, and that's a great point. And, we're lucky at EY, and I confess, I think our company's culture, long before we started the Neuro-Diverse program, was always one about belonging. There's diversity and inclusion, and sometimes that's a checklist in some places. But Lydia, to your point, belonging. Feeling like, as one of our team members said, I like to work here because I can take the mask off. And we thought, boy, how tiring is it when another individual said to us, I have trained myself to look at people in the eye when they talk. It's excruciating. And we said, we don't care if you look. In fact, now when I speak with him, I will purposely look off and to the left because I have to give permission, right, for that. Sure. And so we are not only emulating behavior, but I think we're making it okay to talk about this. Kyle is one of our great team members in Dallas, who is diversity within diversity, right? Autistic, dyslexic, also non-binary, transgender. Said, boy, I just want people to come and ask me what's happening. And so we now facilitate our own internal workshops around this, promoting this. But to your point, it's something that we have to continue doing, because if we don't ever break the ice here, you always feel a little bit uncomfortable. And then once we break it, we realize we're going to argue over, where to find the best cheesesteak, right? Yeah. It's the same thing as anybody else.
For sure. When you mentioned about diversity and inclusion efforts being checkboxes, I think that part of the checkbox item is often we're doing training. And, like Starbucks had and like Sephora just had, you do like a workshop, maybe it's a day, maybe it's a few hours, and then everyone's released and you just kind of go back to the way you were, because sometimes training doesn't work. What is it that you're doing to facilitate these discussions, just in terms of what the audience can take away?
Sure.
What they might be able to do?
So a couple of things. Our individuals are integrated across our entire firm in all lines of our business. So we're a very project-based company, being consulting. So we're integrating them directly into projects. And before we put them onto a project, we very purposefully have an orientation for the team. We said, hey, you're going to have Kyle on your team, or you're going to have Hiren. And Hiren's really quiet, or Hiren rocks back and forth. So if you're in a meeting, right, you'll know. And Hiren rocks back and forth because he has so much energy that if he doesn't release it, it's going to cause a lot of anxiety. And so we purposely do a lot of these orientation type of sessions to, again, break the ice, melt the ice, to say, it's okay, Kyle, Hiren, just like everybody else. And, Kyle says something in this video, which we've all heard from a theory perspective, right? Diverse teams produce incredible results. So the other thing, Lydia, that we're doing is we're translating this into metrics. 7.5 million hours of savings via AI and robotics that this team has built. First week, this is no joke, first week of hiring the first 4 individuals, they noticed a nuance in our onboarding process that saved us 25,000 hours globally. And so part of the way that we end up really almost smashing any barrier between is business results. We measure it, we communicate it, we amplify it, and we realize, how do we get the attention, not just of HR or our D&I team, we want the attention of our business leaders in cybersecurity, in blockchain, in robotics, to say, this is an amazing workforce, and if your job is to drive innovation, which all of our jobs are focused right now around innovation, this is a talent pool that we think we've hit a gold mine. And by the way, we've got the case studies to prove it.
You mentioned retention rates among this population are very high once they get in. Have you met with any pushback or lost anyone who just couldn't abide having people not be like them?
You mean from part of the neurodiverse team that just couldn't manage?
No, from the
outside?
From the neurotypicals.
Neurotypical.
Yeah.
In fact, Lydia, not have we not lost anybody, we have now begun to hire Gen Z and millennial specifically because they see a company that has purpose, that says, we're not just going to talk about it like words on the wall. And oh, by the way, new recruit into our advisory practice, we could use your help to help support our teams. And so this is a real chance for everybody to roll up their sleeves. And so we're finding it's the opposite. One company measured, they said for large organizations, a 1% increase in employee engagement is equivalent to $50 million.
50 million.
50 million, okay?
Okay.
We believe that our employee engagement numbers are skyrocketing because people feel the authenticity. And in today's world, the previous panel was on trust. I think wearing your heart on your sleeve and doing what you say, and then not just doing it as a checkbox or as a token, but really opening this up and scaling it. We've got 4 centers today, Philadelphia, Dallas, Chicago, San Jose. We'll open Nashville in a couple of months, Boston, and then Costa Rica, Canada, UK, Ireland, Australia, India. This is a talent innovation strategy for us. And so when we put our money where our mouth is, I think we are touching those that are intrigued, those that are looking for purpose, those that are maybe touched more personally by this. And so we're actually finding the opposite. It's driving engagement up even higher.
Last question, because we're almost out of time. Did you, at any point, did the executive team put an ROI goal on this? And if so, can you tell us?
I can't tell you exactly what it was, but again, I sit on the business side, so I'm measured on utilization, productivity. We are a knowledge-based company, so time is our metric of measurement.
Sure.
Utilization, how much of your personal time is put towards revenue-generating work. We hold those same standards for our team here. And so for us, if I was not able to prove the ROI in the first 12 months, which is the runway I was given, then we said it would have been a great experiment. What I was told by one of my bosses was, failure is not an option. These are people's lives that we're dealing with. And we realized really quickly, when we offer a job to an individual, this happened, and he starts to cry. This is a grown person that we're talking about, okay? And says, it's been my dream to have a real job, and I was told by family that you'll have menial work. And they're probably well-meaning to set his expectations. And he said, I feel like I'm a person. And then when he stood up, no joke, we think he was like 3 inches taller than when he walked in, because boy, he felt like, and we thought, we're giving people jobs, we're actually changing the trajectory of people's lives.
Very inspiring. Let's give it up for Hiren and the work he's doing with UI. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much to Hiren and to Lydia for that wonderful presentation. I'm glad we got that video to work because that was really inspiring. So thank you to Hiren. So now we are going to be breaking for a coffee.